Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's now move to the fourth speaker from the proposition side. I call upon Mr. Brian Moore.
Guten Tag and Danke. Please forgive my German. I'd like to thank everyone for showing up for the final debate, including our judging panel, some of whom may have debated this problem in real politics. And I'd like to thank the 2 Americans in the audience for their undying support. Hear, hear. Now, let's try to slow things down just a little bit, because I understand that English isn't many of your first languages. So with that in mind, good evening, and let's get to the debate. Germany. Europe is your child, and your child is on drugs. All that money you've been lending them, they've been spending it on their drugs, government waste, and red tape. Your kid is never going to be able to go out and find a nice wife if you keep on supporting them in this manner. So with that in mind, let's keep in mind a question in today's round. Are the bailouts we are giving right now actually working? Is Germany trying to save the European Union, saving the European Union? And the answer has been no. So all the theory that they give you in today's round does not exist when applied with a basic level of realism. And why is this the case? Economically, they give you a lot of really cool prerequisites, and it sounded really awesome. But the problem is, all of these benefits, or at least most of them, can be gained through things like NAFTA. And that's why the United States is not suffering, despite the fact no other country in the world shares their currency. But what you can do in the one area where you gain in an exchange rate, I'll take you in a minute. In the exchange rate, we tell you that the lack of flexibility in monetary policy is far more significant than you get as it pertains to the exchange benefits. So keeping this in mind, that even if there are some small economic harms in the short term, long-term sustainability is dependent upon countries like Greece being able to manipulate their own currency. Right now, they can't do so. It's not working. But now I'll take your question.
So you think that a collapsing economy and a rioting population is not a good enough lesson for Europe, and Germany needs to punish them further by leaving this bastard child to die in a gutter?
No, I think it's possible to say right now the child must be left to deal on their own. And that's actually going to be my on-case point here, explaining to you why in the long term this actually motivates countries to change their practices. Because if you keep on providing Greece with money, they're going to spend it on banana hammocks and swimming pools like they've done for the past years. But now, let's talk about the export economy of the Germans, and they predicate all their offense upon this point. But the problem is that only 29% of this export economy actually pertains to industrial goods. And these industrial goods are high-end products that can't be bought elsewhere. And it's not being sent to Greece. So, for example, despite slightly higher prices, when a movie star's daughter or royalty wants a BMW and they ask their father to buy them one, their father's not going to care about the higher prices. He's going to agree with his daughter's rationale that if you don't buy me a BMW, Daddy, you don't love me anymore. So you're not going to be seeing any decrease in trade by having this removal of the Germany from the Eurozone. But by removing yourself from a non-optimal currency zone, by allowing countries to manipulate their currency, monetary policy can solve economic harms for every country in Europe. So in that sense, you are benefiting every country in Europe as well as Germany. That's a win-win. Economically, we gave you multiple rationales why in reality it's not working, and theoretically it's pretty clearly not working as well. But with that, and you seem to have a question.
Your very glib case ignores the IMF-imposed austerity in Eurozone periphery, including upheaval in the labour market and structural reform of public services. Do you read the newspapers?
Yeah, but I read American newspapers, so I don't read a lot of Guardian stuff. I apologize for that. I did a lot of research last night, though, so hopefully I'll be able to sort of talk about that as I get on to your later case. But what we're arguing now is that we also have institutions like the IMF that can also, Germany can act throughout, even with the removal from the Eurozone, to implement policies that are economically beneficial for everyone mutually, as well as institutions like NAFTA. So all the benefits you talk about can exist in our world as well. But now let's talk about politics. We think Germany's not powerful because they're a member of the EU and the Eurozone. They are powerful in spite of being a member of the EU and the Eurozone, in spite of spending 27% of their GDP on bailouts, in spite of systemic uncertainty as a result of having to support lavish lifestyles. So as a result, Germany's powerful because they experience something that's kind of unique in Europe today, economic growth. And with that in mind, that's not going to change as we move to our world. In fact, it's going to increase because you have the ability of countries to manipulate their own currency. Now, Germany can then flexibly enter into many other treaties. If, for example, there's a security treaty brought up by our opponents in the last speech that benefits Germany, Germany, as the hyper-rational people that they are, can still enter into these treaties. They don't have to be a member of the Eurozone or the EU to do so. In fact, they have increased flexibility by removing themselves from certain policies such as these. But then the question is, why must Germany be the one to save Europe? Why can't we let the Europeans implement measures outside of Germany to save themselves? Why can't the United Kingdom, which our opponents hail from, step in and maybe help out a little bit with the removal of Germany? To the point where they have to prove to you Germany has a unique incentive to do so. I don't think they can do so. At that point, we think we win. But now, let's talk about theory here. And they say, look, guys, there's going to be a huge European war if Germany removes itself from the Eurozone. So right now, the US and Germany aren't in the Eurozone, and they are not in the EU. I don't think they're likely to go to war at any time in the future. These benefits can exist on either side of the house. Then they talk about organizations like Golden Dawn. Keep in mind that Golden Dawn has been gaining support by claiming that Germany's jackboot is crushing the country with austerity measures, and that they should therefore remove themselves from the EU. So you actually remove the influence of partisans in today's round. But now let's go on case here. An argument is that European countries will never change if Germany continues to support their lavish lifestyle. And there's a theory called creative destruction. And what creative destruction entails is that old institutions must die so that new institutions can be reborn. That's why we no longer rely upon whale oil for lighting lamps. And if Germany is expected to constantly bail out governments, there's no incentive for these countries to reform. So when you force these countries to face internal pressure and reform, you are far more likely to cause them to change, to cause them to gain the benefits that they are seeking on their side of the house, which is infinitely more likely on our side of the house, which benefits Germany because right now their policies are failing, and in the long run, sustainability is dependent upon removing themselves. For all these reasons, we are proud to propose.